It's not what you have, it's what you can make.
In the crowded world of car customization shows, one name managed to carve out a place like no other: Bad Chad Customs. This wasn't your average glossy, big-budget automotive series. It was raw, real, inventive, and most importantly, human. From the tiny community of Canning, Nova Scotia, emerged a man who turned scrap metal into sculpture, rust into reverence, and an ordinary garage into an international sensation. His name? Chad Hiltz. But fans know him simply as Bad Chad. The show's premise was deceptively simple: restore and customize old cars. But what Bad Chad Customs brought to the table wasn't just automotive flair, it was heart. Viewers were drawn not only to the jaw-dropping builds, but to the story behind them, the charm of a small-town team turning rust buckets into art pieces, the dynamic of Chad and his brilliant partner Jolene McIntyre working side by side, the spirit of invention, struggle, and success fused in every bolt, weld, and coat of paint. What truly set Bad Chad Customs apart was its rebellious attitude toward traditional car-building norms. While other shows flaunted expensive tools and factory-fresh parts, Chad thrived on the opposite, making something out of absolutely nothing. His shop was a haven for misfit machines and salvaged parts. One week, he'd be turning a rusted-out '72 Pontiac Firebird into a street beast. The next, he'd be shaping body panels with hand tools from a flea market. Where others saw junk, Chad saw raw potential. He once built a luxury car front grille using scrap metal from an old oven door. And that wasn't for theatrics. It was how he worked. That raw ingenuity is what fans admired most. Every episode was a masterclass in creativity under pressure. There were no big sponsors, no off-screen miracle teams doing the heavy lifting. What you saw was what you got. And viewers loved that. The show tapped into something deeply nostalgic, the idea that craftsmanship and vision mattered more than money and polish. Then there was Jolene, not just Chad's partner in life, but his equal in ambition and grit. She wasn't the background character or token TV girlfriend. Jolene ran logistics, handled PR, filmed behind the scenes, and brought a sharp business mind to the chaos of the workshop. Together, they were more than a couple. They were a creative powerhouse, balancing each other out in the heat of high-stakes builds. That authenticity, combined with their underdog status and small-town roots, made Bad Chad Customs feel real in a world of overproduced reality TV. It wasn't just a show about cars, it was about creating against the odds, and that's what made it unforgettable. From the very first episode in 2019, audiences were hooked. Chad wasn't your typical TV host. He didn't read from a teleprompter or wear designer overalls. His hands were always dirty. His words were unscripted. He was authentic, charismatic, and unrelenting in his pursuit of creativity. Jolene, equally brilliant, brought structure, savvy, and vision to the show's chaos. Their chemistry grounded the show, not just romantically, but professionally. Jolene wasn't just there to support, she was a co-creator, planner, and business mind behind many of the shop's boldest moves. Their connection was the heartbeat of Bad Chad Custom. Chad was the artist, wild, impulsive, imaginative. Jolene was the strategist, focused, forward-thinking, and always considering how to grow the brand beyond the garage. What made their partnership so magnetic was how seamlessly their energies fused. She helped turn Chad's creativity into a viable business, all while keeping the workshop running smoothly behind the scenes. Whether it was organizing the logistics of a major build or managing online engagement with fans, Jolene played a pivotal role that went far beyond what cameras often captured. And Chad? He pushed the envelope with every build. His imagination's limitless. Viewers were stunned to see him build luxury-inspired masterpieces with little more than raw steel, angle grinders, and a vivid mental blueprint. He didn't rely on digital renderings or computer models. Everything came from his head, shaped by hand, refined by instinct, When he crafted a $40 million Bugatti replica out of scrap for under $3,000, it wasn't just about building a car, it was about proving that nothing is impossible with vision and elbow grease. Chad's fearless innovation was matched by his relatability. He didn't present himself as a master builder from the start. He showed his mistakes, his learning process, and his triumph. That vulnerability is what drew fans in. They weren't watching a celebrity. They were watching someone like them, doing extraordinary things in a small-town garage. Together, Chad and Jolene weren't just building cars. They were building a movement, one that inspired dreamers, DIYers, and underdogs everywhere to believe in the impossible and chase it with everything they had. The first season set the tone. Viewers saw builds like a 1930s Oldsmobile reimagined into a sleek, modern truck. Then came the second season in 2020, with projects like transforming a 1957 Cadillac Coupe de Ville into something otherworldly. Each car had a soul, and Chad treated everyone like it had a story worth telling. It was never about showing off or flexing wealth. Chad and his team could make magic out of materials others threw away. Where else could you see someone choose a coat hanger over welding wire? Not for drama, but because it worked and saved money. It was this do more with less philosophy that gave Bad Chad Customs its distinctive flair, and fans couldn't get enough. But how did it all begin? Chad Hiltz was born on August 31st, 1971, in Kingsport, Nova Scotia, a place more known for its quiet beauty than car culture. He grew up in a modest, hard-working family. His parents, Doug and Patricia Hiltz, owned and ran a small gas station called the White Rose, a local fixture where people fueled up, swapped stories, and passed the time. For young Chad, it was more than just a business. It was his first classroom. It was in that humble gas station that Chad got his earliest education in machinery, responsibility, and the rhythm of small-town life. His father, Doug, was a pivotal figure, not just a mechanic, but a mentor. Doug had a deep appreciation for classic vehicles, and that passion rubbed off quickly on Chad. One of their most formative bonding moments came when Doug brought home a 1934 three-window coupe. Instead of keeping the car to himself, he invited Chad to work on it with him. That moment lit a fire in Chad that would never burn out. Unlike many TV personalities with formal training and polished resumes, Chad took a very different path. He tried college, but dropped out, never quite fitting into the traditional mold. He enrolled in an auto body course to hone his practical skills, but found himself bouncing between jobs, including a stint at a grain mill that ended in termination. But what others might have seen as failure, Chad saw as a turning point. That was the moment he decided to follow his gut and chase what he truly loved, building custom cars. Chad's journey wasn't just about talent. It was about tenacity. With almost no funding, no professional studio, and limited access to high-end equipment, he started from scratch. Inspired by old-school builders and guided in part by legendary customizer Gene Winfield, who later became a mentor, Chad began crafting his own unique vehicle using whatever he had on hand. That DIY spirit would become his trademark. What started in a small garage in Nova Scotia would eventually grow into something far bigger. But even as the spotlight grew brighter, Chad never forgot those early lessons learned at the White Rose gas station. Work hard, stay creative, and never be afraid to get your hands dirty. Formal education wasn't his path. After a brief stint in college and some jobs in grain mill, Chad knew his calling was elsewhere. He eventually trained in auto body repair and, through grit and experimentation, founded Green Goblin Customs, a modest shop with a rebellious name and a bigger dream. Chad wasn't just a skilled fabricator, he was an artist, and one key mentor helped sharpen his vision. Gene Winfield, a legend in the world of car customization, known for pioneering metal shaping techniques and creating some of the most iconic custom cars of the 20th century. Winfield wasn't just a teacher, he was a source of inspiration and validation. Under Gene's influence, Chad refined his craft, learning to see cars not just as machines, but as canvases for self-expression. That mentorship pushed Chad from being a talented local builder to a respected figure in the global custom scene. By the time television producers started to notice Chad, he wasn't just a hobbyist working in a shed. He had already earned a collection of prestigious awards. Among them were multiple World of Wheels trophies, including Best in Class and Radical Custom titles, and the coveted Master Builder Award at the Boston Auto Show. He also cleaned up at the Moncton Radical Speed Sports Show, taking home 4 separate honors in 1 year. These accolades weren't just decoration. They were proof of Chad's uncompromising vision and dedication to his work. Yet, despite the trophies and recognition, the real turning point in Chad's life wasn't a moment under stage light. It was something far more personal, a love story. Chad met Jolene McIntyre in the most unexpected way. He was showing off one of his prized creations, the Green Goblin, a heavily customized 1962 Chrysler Windsor, outside a local tavern. Jolene, who worked inside at the time, was encouraged by a friend to come outside and see the weird-looking car. She did, and that moment changed both of their lives. Jolene didn't know much about cars then, but she saw something in Chad, his passion, his drive, and the extraordinary machine he'd created. Chad, in turn, was captivated by Jolene's intelligence and presence. They were opposites in many ways, but somehow that worked. As they began spending more time together, Jolene became involved in his world of builds and shows, and soon her natural business instincts kicked in. It wasn't long before their partnership evolved into a powerhouse, both personally and professionally. And from this unlikely match came the spark that would ignite Bad Chad Customs. Chad met Jolene McIntyre in a moment that sounds scripted, but it wasn't. He was showing off the Green Goblin, a bizarrely modified 1962 Chrysler Windsor, outside a tavern. Jolene's friend dragged her outside to see the car, and something clicked. Jolene was smart, sharp, and all business. Chad was a dreamer covered in grease. Opposites? Definitely. But Jolene saw more than a car guy. She saw potential. They teamed up for the Rockabilly Weekend Car Show, and soon, Chad promised to build Jolene a car of her own. Her choice? A 1938 Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic, a $40 million car, which Chad aimed to replicate for $3,000. As they documented the process in YouTube videos, something happened. The videos went viral. Production companies noticed. TV executives reached out. And just like that, Bad Chad Customs was born. Produced by Love Productions USA and aired by the Discovery Channel, the show became an overnight sensation. It wasn't just another car show, it was something soulful. Set in their modest garage on Highway 358, the show pulled viewers into a world where craftsmanship, struggle, and artistry lived side by side. Fans remember the legendary Camaro restoration, the 1955 Chevrolet Bel Air, and the unforgettable 1972 Pontiac Firebird. Every episode was more than a build. It was a battle against time, budget, and reality. Each episode had moments of friction, humor, and breakthroughs. Like when a part wouldn't fit, and Chad would stubbornly find a way, or Jolene would crack a joke that made the tension melt. But as Bad Chad Customs reached new heights, shadows began to fall. In early 2020, with Season 2 a hit and Season 3 ready to begin filming, the world changed. The COVID-19 pandemic hit. What began as global headlines soon became a personal catastrophe. Lockdowns, production halts, safety restrictions. For a hands-on show like Bad Chad Customs, it was a death sentence. The shop had to shut down. Filming stopped. The tight-knit team that thrived on collaboration couldn't work the same way. Behind the scenes, financial pressures mounted. Networks slashed budgets. Smaller shows like Chad's, without major studio backing, were vulnerable. They tried to pivot. Chad and Jolene posted on social media, filmed safer segments, and kept their fan base engaged. But the reality was inescapable. The show was over. No announcement, no fanfare, just silence. The final episode aired on October 12th, 2020, and Bad Chad Customs quietly disappeared from the Discovery Channel lineup. No press release, no official statement, just an abrupt end to what had become a global cult favorite. For fans who had followed Chad and Jolene's journey from the very first weld to the final reveal, the disappearance felt like a gut punch. And with no answers, the internet did what it always does, filled the silence with speculation. Some fans theorized that creative control had become a sticking point between Chad and the production company. Others speculated that Discovery may have quietly pulled the plug due to budget constraints during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then there were whispers, some absurd, some oddly convincing, that Chad had never finished the cars he started, that builds were staged, or that the entire show was a fabrication. Chad, never one to stay quiet in the face of doubt, addressed the rumors head-on in a raw, heartfelt YouTube video. He walked fans through the shop, no editing, no glamour, just reality. He showed unfinished builds, works in progress, and finished masterpieces, reminding viewers that real craftsmanship takes time. He reiterated the show's authenticity. The cars were real, the work was real, and most importantly, the passion behind it was real. He also revealed details of the deal with Discovery. Chad retained ownership of all the vehicles. The network simply aired the content, while he and Jolene did the heavy lifting. But when requests came in to change the storytelling, to spice things up with scripted drama, or speed up builds unnaturally, Chad refused to compromise his principles. He didn't want to create drama. He wanted to create cars. And perhaps that was the final nail in the coffin. Chad wasn't willing to trade his identity for ratings. The price of integrity was steep. It cost them the show. But what they lost in TV exposure, they gained in something much more powerful: authenticity and the undying loyalty of a fan base who believed in what they stood for. According to Chad, the show's end wasn't about ego or drama. It was about control. Discovery Channel had the rights to production, but Chad owned the cars. As demands for more scripted content and producer interference increased, tension grew. Chad didn't want to fake builds or manufacture conflict. His ethos, "It's not what you have, it's what you can make," was sacred, and he refused to compromise. But the show's cancellation wasn't just a career blow, it was personal. The pandemic hit Chad and Jolene hard. Supply chain issues, financial strain, emotional stress. They faced health scares and uncertainty like so many others. Their dream, the garage, the brand, the show, felt like it was slipping away. And yet, they didn't give up. Instead, they reinvented. With no production team, no network, and no guarantees, Chad and Jolene turned to the very platform that started it all: YouTube. They went back to basics: garage tours, DIY builds, behind-the-scenes updates. The fans returned, then multiplied. Their channel exploded, with hundreds of thousands of subscribers and millions of views. Their new Bugatti miniseries, with episodes averaging over 100,000 views, reignited global interest. Chad rebuilt Ferraris, restored vintage Jaguars, and reimagined rusted Plymouths, all without a single producer dictating the story. On Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Chad and Jolene built something Discovery never could: a real-time connection with fans. They offered tutorials, responded to comments, and brought fans into the garage with them. Their content wasn't polished, it was passionate, and people responded. Now, Chad is more than a TV personality. He's a digital creator, mentor, and brand. Hilt's Auto Company has become a beacon for car lovers, young builders, and anyone who believes in turning dreams into steel and motion. Their merchandise sells out, their videos trend, and their message is clear. You don't need permission to create, you just need passion. So while Bad Chad Customs may have vanished from cable TV, its soul lives on in every YouTube comment, in every shared post, in every young mechanic inspired to weld scrap into something spectacular. And maybe that's the real legacy. Not the show, not the ratings, but the community. The reminder that great stories don't always need a camera crew. Sometimes they just need a garage, a dream, and someone crazy enough to believe in both. Chad and Jolene's story is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning.